All right, cool. We're live. All right, I'm gonna wait for the notification here. Hold on 1 second. Make sure we all the way. Cool. All right, so with that being said, peace to the family. This is Brandon B. Dixon, NMLS 1541210. Okay, we're back with We're Talking Real Estate. So let's go ahead and introduce the panel here, and let's go ahead and get the show started. I'm gonna start with CJ. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right, what's going on, everybody? CJ, the broker here. I'm broker of Greenwood Realty Group. Check me out on social media: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. CJ Sales Texas. That's CJSELLSTX. So check me out on there. DM me if you have any questions on anything. Check out the website greenwoodrealtytx.com. If you're interested in getting a customized list of available properties, hit us up on there. We'll get you set up. Also, YouTube channel, CJ the Realtor. We're doing our Lux edition of our home tour, showing you some of the beautiful homes that Houston has to offer. And we're going out in the suburbs too. So if you're looking for large houses, those custom and sitting on land, we're doing it all. So got another one cooking that's we'll be dropping tomorrow. So check that out. Give me some feedback. Go to the channel, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff everybody talk about. Do the same thing on mine too. And then, hey, if you got any questions, real estate related, hit me up, call me or text me, 832-338-3182. And then, of course, we give back. So our nonprofit, the Mansa Academy, teaching our young men knowledge of self-improvement and entrepreneurship. Go to the website, themansaacademy.org. Go on there if you want to donate time or money. You can do both or either. We'll appreciate whatever you want to do, and all the forms and everything on the website.
Barry, let's go ahead.
Hey. All right, Barry Bolston with Keller Williams Professionals, looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate in Houston and surrounding areas. You can come to homesbybarryb.com. You Google Homes by Barry B. I'm on IG, Facebook, Twitter. 832-786-1270. 832-786-1270. And I have a YouTube channel. Just put a new video out too. So check it out.
And this Homes by Barry B is the handle on the YouTube as well?
Yeah, you can say Homes by Barry B too. Yep.
Gotcha.
Home by Barry B everywhere, baby.
Hey.
Patrick, go ahead. My intro is kind of long, so go ahead. Tell them where tell them where they can find you. Tell them where they can find you first and what you do, and then we're gonna get into your story after I introduce myself. That way you got the floor.
Well, I'm definitely happy to be here this evening. I've been a participant, but on the viewing side, so I'm definitely happy to be sitting with the panel this evening, right, and actually participating. My name is Patrick Chevalier III. I'm a wealth advisor here in Houston. As you can imagine, I have clients all over the country, but my focus is here in the city. In order to find me, I would just say Google me, right? If you Google me, you'll probably locate my LinkedIn page. And from there, we can correspond if you guys have any questions, thoughts, or feelings that you guys want to share with me. That's all I got to be.
Man, what's going on? Mr. Lemons. Hyman, what's going on?
What's up, B?
Not much, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself before, I get started. Mine take a minute or so. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Hyman with H&L Premier Realty, uh, specializing in investments. Good to see you, fellas. Been keeping up with y'all. Y'all been doing a good job. Staying on track, staying consistent.
Yep, that's what
Appreciate it.
It's all about. Let me go ahead and introduce myself. Then I want to get Patrick to kind of tell us his story, what he do, and all that stuff. Because a lot of the second half of the show is going to be kind of more geared toward his industry, and we're going to tie our industries together. So I wanted him to have the floor. We're going to talk about ours, and then we're going to wrap the show up with this wealth management thing. So I think this is imperative knowledge that we need to spread in our community. So let me go ahead and introduce myself. Let's get started. Again, my name is timing, man. I'm efficient, man. Brandon B. Dixon, MLS 1541210. I'm at Billionaire Loan also on all social media. So please follow me, like, subscribe, give me some feedback, comment, so on and so forth. Again, I'm a published author, serial entrepreneur, so on and so forth. My book, Sales the Nucleus of Any Profession, is out right now on Amazon, so go ahead and cop that. I got another book dropping soon here, so stay tuned. ApplyWithB.com. Again, if you want to go ahead and book me for a Zoom call or you want to go ahead and apply for a mortgage, go to my website, www.applywithb.com. Also, we got another website, CJ the Realtor and I, HoustonCondoSales.com, is geared toward condos, townhouses, and high rises. So it's curated. The best of the best is for Houstonians by Houstonians. So if you're in that market, hit us up. That's a great website where you could look at daily and look at the inventory. Challenge me. What's today's rates.com. So everybody wants to know what's the rates. So I got a website totally dedicated to where you could go ahead and check my rates out, and you get pre-approved somewhere else. Check, shop me versus them. What's today's rates.com. I guarantee you I'll beat it. I don't lose any deals. So what's today's rates.com. Also, YouTube at Billionaire Loan Officer. Again, like CJ mentioned, we got 3 new shows. House Tours Lux, that's out right now. I got Behind the Sauce, where I'm showing you the sauciness, and then building this company and making it look cool while I'm doing it. And I have the Power of Ownership podcast, which is 7 years running strong. And the last thing, you could call me 24/7, 832-775, 8357. All right, so let's get into the show, man. That wasn't that long, man. What that was about? What, a minute and a half?
Hey, you've been practicing, bro. You
Right.
Been doing it. I've been doing it 6 years, man. I mean, let's go ahead and get into Patrick. You my financial advisor. How long you been in the business? What do you do? Explain it for those. A lot of people get us mixed up. A lot of people think I'm a financial advisor. So let's break it down to the bone gristle, like Method Man, and like kind of explain to them like what exactly you do, what exactly you're for, what's your purpose, and how can it help you.
Right. So with your experience, you definitely have a lot of good insights to share with folks, right? With the work that you do, but where I work specifically, I work with individuals and also business owners who actually want to build wealth for themselves and their family, right? A lot of folks have different goals for themselves, depending on what it is. And I help folks understand what they are, the things they need to do to get there, and I point out any red flags that I may see in their situation and make recommendations from there so that they're on the most efficient course to get to the financial goals that they want for themselves and their families.
Right. So for those who are brand new, because a lot of especially in our community, they don't really use financial advisors. So
Right.
make the clarification. You're not making them rich. This is not like a casino.
No,
You're not like a Swami.
Right.
You're for to keep them from going broke.
Right. Exactly. So you're exactly right there. So, when I first started in the business, I was a broker dealer, more like a stockbroker. And so I did help folks with investments, particularly in the stock market, bond market, wherever those were. Right. In your world, we call them REITs, real estate investment trusts. Those are some, depending on what they are, there's some investments where one can add real estate to their investment portfolio. And as I've grown in the business, I've been in the business for half a decade now. And so I really am more of a planner now than I am a stockbroker. And that's pretty much been the evolution of the business from folks who have been around since the early 80s, 90s, and the 2000s, right? If you're working with a stockbroker now, you're really being shortchanged, right? Because you're not looking at your long-term goals. You're not talking about how taxation is going to affect your plan as well. And so there's a lot to be desired. And so the business has evolved, and so have I. And so I work with folks in retirement income planning, investment planning and analysis, tax planning and analysis, healthcare planning and analysis, and also legacy and estate, right? Mm-hmm. And we talk about, especially with you, B, where real estate fits in all of that, right? Real estate is an asset class, just like those other securities that you hear about and read about, and they do have a place in your portfolio, in your financial plans. And so I think that's one of the key reasons that I'm here to share with your group and your audience today.
Right. In fact, and that's what we're gonna get to mainly in the second half of the show. But let's get the build up first. Natalie, I'm glad you could join us. You know, you missed the introduction, so I'm gonna go ahead yield the floor to you. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Tell them all your handles, where they can find you, so on and so forth. You're muted. You mute yourself.
Thank you so much. I apologize. I want to make
Right.
sure I've got everybody in there. It's a pleasure to be on the call. Thank you all for having me. I do land bank properties, receivership. I do wholesaling, fix and flip, buy and hold. I mean, I'm the Chicago kind of like unicorn that just really wants to have my hands in everything and understand the process, because I think we can build wealth in many different ways. I actually just hopped off an Instagram live with a professor from Georgetown who's doing new construction planning and development. So my hands are a little bit in that. We've stretched out to Atlanta this past year and got licensing ready. So we're getting started to do some development out that way. But I'm just excited to be here and see how I can help collaborate with you all.
Okay, on time. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the first. Since we got all the introductions out, I want to talk this week about short-term rentals.
Yes.
And I want to talk about, I want to break it down again to the molecule. For those who want to get into it, who've heard about it, what do you need to do? What does it look like? And what are the benefits as far as, and I want to tie Patrick into this, what are the benefits of it as far as legacy and wealth planning and so on and so forth? So I want to start with the realtors first. Ladies first, of course. I want to go to Natalie, then let's go to CJ, Barry, and Hyman. I want to hear from the realtors, like, what does it look like as far as getting started? What are the benefits? So, let's talk about the whole diaspora.
I mean, when I first got started in Airbnb, I was in college and I didn't have 2 nickels, but I won a scholarship and I took that scholarship money and flipped it into an Airbnb. The laws were different in Illinois when I first got started. So now you have to have, your taxes with the city. They want their money. And then the local state, they want you to register so that, you're paying everything. It's still out there, right? The arbitrage and making sure that you communicate with the owners. It's much easier than it was before personally if you're working with owners, but the high rises, they've really kind of put a stop on it unless you have that community relationship with the property management company, which is a big part of that. And then you're able to go in and say, I am, a business. I'm looking for a furnished rental for my business, for my company. Then it's a different conversation. But that's really what I'm seeing in the current market that I'm in.
Gotcha. CJ, you want to give us a little input on this?
Yeah, like one thing, especially here in Houston, location is going to be very, very important, especially when you're thinking about long term, because you got to be mindful and up to date on what's up and coming, what's happening in these different areas, and then what kind of strategy you're looking for. Because if you're looking for something extravagant, luxurious, you're not going to be in this particular part of town where you need more volume. So based on your strategy, location is going to be one of the most important, but staying on top of what's coming up as far as the city plans and development and everything like that, it's going to be crucial when you're doing short term.
Gotcha. So break it down, even further for those who are maybe I'll get this to Hyman, because Hyman, you specialize in invest on the investor side. What is it going to take? What is it? What are some of the things that you look for when you're looking for a property that's different than just the regular investment property as far as short term?
On the short-term rental side, you're always looking for a destination spot. So like when CJ talks about your higher end spots, I can pretty much say he may be speaking more or less of your Westheimer, your West U's, those are mansion styles where the heavy hitters come in, throw big parties, or if so, like we went to a Fantasia concert. So 9 times out of 10, if she didn't want to stay in the hotel, she probably got a nice house out that way on what's that, Sugarland or in Westview, which would be the closest thing off 59. But that retrospect, in order to get into those type of situations, of course you're gonna need your 20-30% down Of course, your credit score is going to need to be great, but you're also going to have, like the young lady from Chicago said, some type of management company ready to take over who specialize in that particular area, which would be the larger homes, the mansions for that particular type of clientele. So then you have Galveston. That's where everybody here goes when they want to go out of town and go to see the dirty water, of course, but nevertheless still go. And you can get some of those. They're not necessarily Airbnbs, right? They're not on Airbnb. They are predominantly done by 3 local companies down there. One of them, which is Swedes, who manage over 100 properties on Crystal Beach. If you're trying to get anywhere down there, that's who you're going to deal with. So when you go into the Airbnb space, of course, you got to have your money. But next, you do need to have the property management in place that you trust, that has done it for a long period of time, that already have a clientele base ready for your style of property. So if you go into the 3 to 4 bedroom homes in Galveston, you're going to be looking to get about maybe $5,000 a weekend, give or take, which is a great number because that pays for it. And you get all of the summer and spring. And also, by going with a property management company who is familiar with that process, they'll also show you a strategy for the winter, right? We always tend to forget Airbnb. You have winter time. We're not in Boulder where you can go skiing in Aspen. We're not in none of those places. So here, you also have to have a strategy for those off-peak moments is what they call. But nevertheless, we still go down at it even during spring Christmas by the dirty water sometimes.
Gotcha. Barry, this twisting a slight bit. How would short term versus regular rental, and how would that look? What's the versus like? What's the advantages of the short term versus the long term rentals versus having a 6 month year lease? And what would you say? Like, how would, if somebody's new, how would you say which way should they go? Which way would you recommend, and how would you curate their thought process? Corey, what's going on, man? Corey,
what's going on, good people?
Corey, early today, man.
Like they said, I think that would depend on what your strategy is, what you want to accomplish, what your goals are, whether you want to do that short term or long term. I think he gave a great analysis of those short term rentals, because I'm not too experienced in the short term rentals, but he gave a great analysis on that.
Right. Corey, man, you, go ahead and introduce yourself. You know what I'm saying? You kind of you early, but you know what I'm saying? You people that came in, they go ahead and introduce yourself and go ahead and join the conversation, man.
Late, but I'm early.
But you're early.
I was just saying, this is my name is Corey Smith. You know what I'm saying? Your favorite lender down here in Houston, Texas, and glad to be here again. You know how it go.
Right. No, you don't want sites or anything.
Nah.
Yeah, Dion said I ain't hard to find. I'm all,
There you go. So, if you want to find me, you can find me.
Right. So the subject right now, I'm gonna let Patrick chime in, so I give you a chance to where you think you answer. But Patrick, I want to. The subject right now is Airbnb,
Right.
short-term rentals versus the long-term rentals, and we're talking to people that might be, novices at this particular thing and trying to get into it. They've heard about it, but they don't know what it looks like. So, can you, from your perspective, let's talk about from the financial planner,
Right.
how does that benefit you in financially, and how does that help you with wealth management?
Right. So when I think of Airbnb, short-term rental, long-term rental, like Mr. Barry B, the first thing that comes to mind is cash flow, right? When I'm doing plans for folks, their probability of success all depends on their cash flow, right? Income coming in, expenses coming out, right? And so with the arbitrage that folks are able to take advantage of with those short-term rentals, I think it's huge, right? Because if you're cash flowing every month, it doesn't matter if you got $5,000 in the bank in your portfolio, or if you got $5 million, you're going to be just fine because you're cash flowing every month. Right. So that's the first thing I think about. And that's what gets me excited about those short-term rentals, even though I don't partake in it myself. So I can definitely see the benefits and the advantage to folks who actually take the leap of faith and go out there and try to get that done. Right. The flip side of that coin, and I'll be the devil's advocate there, I've sat with some families who were doing Airbnbs, and they're cash flowing, they're making money. I've sat down with other families and they're not. It's a hobby, right? They say, hell yeah, I'm doing Airbnb, I'm in business, so and so. But when I look at the numbers, some people are doing well with it and some people are not, right? And I think I'd throw it back to the other realtors on the call to speak to that.
Right. That's what we want to get into. We want to get into the some of the flip side of it as opposed to. But I'll let Corey chime in, and I'll chime in as well afterward. Corey, what you got? Well, let me ask you this: have you done a lot of pre-quals for Airbnb, or they don't say it, or what's your experience been?
So my experience has just been regular investment for a long-term rental
Right.
period. I really haven't run into a lot of people that's doing short-term rentals, although I do know personally, you're saying some people that have done them and been successful with it. But just like, this business, everything else, you're saying there's going to be success stories and then there's going to be failure stories.
Right.
I think the number one thing is that you just got to make sure that you educate yourself to try to shorten that learning curve as much as possible, because the last thing you want to do is just roll it back home with your own money.
Right.
Right. So I'm long with this. So I like to go last. You know what I'm saying? So
But
my
with
experience,
that said, and I don't mean to cut you off, B, but to my point, I think anyone who's gonna risk investment on anything, that's a good thing too with my business is risk management, right? You really have to know what you're getting into, the ins and outs, but then you also have to have faith, because if you don't do it, someone else will. And that's the only thing that's gonna change your situation is if you go out there and make it happen.
right.
But I'm always on the risk management side, so you have to be aware of the downside of all the activities that you step into, investment and otherwise. But as I said, half of the families I sit down with are doing well with long-term and short-term, and then sprinkled in there are folks who are just doing the activities and not making any money.
Right. I would say this, just to give you a background on myself. I do quite a bit that's going to be on the short term because I got all of Texas and I got all of Georgia and Florida. So a lot of people call in and see me on social media and want to get the best rates. So, but what I've seen, the common theme in the people that's successful in it and the people that do well with that cash flow is people that kind of, I don't want to say bite the bullet, but stretch themselves out a little bit and get in that hot area, the area that they know is going to make that cash flow. So you don't want to guess around with this. So like, say for example, we have Lake Conroe here. We have the rodeo that comes here every year. We have what's the name of that? What's the name of that lake that everybody goes to spring break?
Like Houston,
No. Down south a little bit.
Jackson.
South Padre?
Not Galveston. I get a lot in Galveston as well, but it's another
You talking about South Padre?
South
Kima?
Padre. South Padre. So
South Padre. Yeah.
Right. So South Padre and all those. So when you're in that area and it's known for the vacationers, also you get some in Hill Country as well out there, around Austin. I would give this advice to people: if you're gonna do it, make sure that it's in an area that's gonna hit. Even though if you got to stretch yourself out a little bit, get something that's in that area that that people are going to vacation or are going to be a hot area. Like, say, for example, around the loop, around West Belford and all that for the rodeo. For a month and a half out the year, you're going to be able to get premium dollars for the rodeo, for people coming out of town and stuff like that. So, and what it looks like as far as the difference between a short-term rental and long-term is the same, basically. As far as getting into it, you're still gonna have to have the 20% down, 15% if it's conventional, and also I got a lot of lenders that's starting to cash. I mean, if you file it on your taxes, there you can count that short-term rental income. They're gonna average it for the last couple of years.
Right.
So you still can count that cash. So it's all type of advantages. I want to get into a little bit as far as the tax benefits as well. Natalie, I know you kind of experienced on this. Let's talk about some of the other benefits of investing in real estate, and especially with the short-term rentals and this rental, investing period.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you're able to show income, and I'm not an accountant, so I'm not giving accounting advice, but
Right.
I'm just saying, speaking for me personally, being able to write off depreciation or losses. So if I had damages on my apartment that I was renting out, or all the material that I purchased, that is a deductible. I'm going through my checklist of all the things that I bought for the apartment to furnish it with toiletries, like all those things get deducted. So as a business owner, just on the fundamental basic side, I think a lot of times we get into it and we start making so much money, but we don't realize how to keep it. And that's something that, it's prevalent in the community, because we can run a check fast, but we can't run it back in circles. So I'm hoping that, we look more into that when it comes to utilizing the tax advantages for the depreciation, or for, anything that we're using to furnish the apartment. Even if we're using a VA or a property management company, that all counts towards, your losses, and you're able to write those things off to get that back so that you can reinvest it into your business.
Right. I'll open it up. Like, anybody want to tackle, like, on some of the advantages of the tax benefits, and or some more benefits? Let me broaden it up. More benefits of short-term rentals and investing period. Like for
I'll speak on, just location, especially when they have these programs like with the opportunity zones and things. If you buy in a particular area, you get as tax savings from that too.
Mm.
So as long as you hold over a certain amount of time.
I'm gonna say this versus a short-term and a long-term investment rental. If you're a rookie just getting into it, I'm gonna say, just to mitigate some of the risk, as the financial advisor said, you do better starting out with a long-term, get your feet wet, understand what the cash flow is going to look like. Like the young lady from Chicago says, understand how to do the deductions on just a simple single family or whatever, multifamily, duplex, whatever you like. You start there, learn there, and then once you kind of get what you're doing, then you branch off into the short-term rental in the hot area, because like you said, B, you have to find the right spot, and you're going to have to spend a lot more money than you would if you just to go find a nice 3-4 bedroom little house. Looks nice, neighborhood is okay, school district is but you're still going to make money, because at the end of the day, we all know somebody needs somewhere to live, and they're going to pay one way or another.
Right. I think the not to cut you out anybody else, but I think the strategy for long term and short term are two different strategies.
Agreed.
I think the strategy for long term, you look at more of the school district, especially here in Texas. We're notorious for the school system, Katy ISD and all that, so on and so forth. So I think if you want to get a tenant in there long term, you want to have them to where that child goes to it's the continuity of that child going from elementary school to this school where they can keep their friends and so on and so forth. So I think that's part of the strategy for long-term rental. I think short-term rental is the area and the events. Knowing that I give you an example. When I started my business out here in Houston, coming from New Orleans out in 2005, when I expanded out here, I thought, being 20-something year old, I thought all cities were pretty much the same. And, my city, where I come from, Louisiana, is totally different than Houston. It operates totally different. So people don't travel, since we don't have, it's not zoned out here. Everybody has these pockets. So people not going to move outside their pocket. So the stuff I did the same marketing and everything like that. I had a third of the results because it's the neighborhood I was in. I was in South Park, which was the hood. So I thought people would travel, come from everywhere like they did in Louisiana. I had people come from Mississippi. They'll travel because I was the only thing around. And it's different then, so with that being said, I'm saying that to say this, that you got to know the layout of the city and know what's hot. So I wouldn't invest in like Chicago right now because I don't know the city. I'm more familiar with Atlanta and Houston. So I know so I would say be familiar with the area. That way you can make the more intelligent decision.
Yeah, I think at the same time, you got to have that same approach with long term, because if you think about like the amount of people that are moving back in the city from the suburbs too, because you got empty nesters, and you got the millennials and young professionals that want the convenience of being close to everything versus being out in the suburb. Like that's a long-term strategy too. But as far as I think one of the main differences is your risk tolerance, because you're banking on people to rent a place for days at a time versus long-term, you lock them down for a year. So in places like here in Houston, we don't have that limit on properties like they have in Atlanta and Georgia now. Some of those areas are super saturated with short term. So if once that happens, then you got to lower your price. And then once you start lowering your price, you're eating into your money. You're eating into the money that you're taking in profit. So it's multifaceted from that standpoint.
Well, I think the reason why they did that in Atlanta is everybody was coming from outside, and investing in Atlanta. So they trying to equalize it out. They didn't want to have people come in and have a monopoly.
Yeah.
So that's why they limited it in Atlanta. You only have two. What is it? Two Airbnbs or three? Two or three?
Two. I think it was two. Yeah, I think it's two.
Gotcha. So like you only got two in the city or something to that effect. But
so the city capped how many entity can own.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
That's terrible.
Right.
That's terrible.
Right. But I understand why they did it, because everybody was coming in and buying up everything, and then for small people that's trying to get in, you have nothing left. All the big fish are gone. They cherry picked everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we
And
live in
you
a
got to be a
capitalist
resident
society.
there to have
That's
that
the way it
property.
goes.
Right. So if you're a resident of Atlanta, it's uncapped. Am I correct?
That I'm not sure about.
I think if you got to be a resident, but if you're not a resident, I think it's capped, which I understand why they did it.
It's simple to get residency now, though. You know what I'm saying? that's a simple loophole to get around right there. But
Right.
that's hard when they're gonna put a cap out there. What's wrong with this folks?
I mean,
You probably get out there and make money with everybody else.
right. I'm just playing devil's advocate over there. I see why they did it, but not saying that it's fair or unfair. This is what it is.
Man, that's terrible. Ain't no fairness to that.
Right. Let's shift a little bit. Before we shift a little bit. Any other thing y'all want to add to the discussion about Airbnb short-term rentals, and what do you? I mean, let's talk. What's your opinion on it? What do you? I know CJ and Barry, y'all say you're not too familiar with it, but what's your opinion on it? Like, what do you think? Is it good for our community? I mean, is something that we need to do in droves? I mean, what's your philosophy on it? Let's talk philosophical for a second.
It's like
I think it's good for events, especially here in Houston when you have events. Some of my friends, we traveled one time, and instead of us getting hotel rooms, we just all got together and got us an Airbnb, and we did it like that. So I think it's good for events.
Right, but what do you think is good? Would you, if you had money right now and wanted to invest in two different, would you go long term or would you go?
I think I would go long term first. Like I think that's I mean,
that's what I'm trying to get out. You're not an advocate.
You hit 1 month, you might be great, and then February, March, April roll around,
right. So,
you're not getting that same income.
Right. This is the important. This is what I wanted to get to. This is what I'll go ahead before I let everybody else chime in. But I want to talk to that point. CJ, you got anything?
No, that's what I said. Your risk tolerance plays a big part too, because in those situations, and think about, I mean, long term, landlord took a hit too, but really short term took a bigger hit when like COVID hit and nobody was traveling, everybody was stuck in the house. Then what happens to that property? But on the flip side,
but the lender side picked that up. It's not as big of an issue like it used to be. You know what I'm saying? That you can do the where you don't have to make a payment for like 6 months.
they had the variances and stuff.
Yeah, that picked that part up. And 9 times out of 10,
But I also
they're
have
not going to
people
foreclose on that.
But I also have people that rent Airbnbs.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of purchasing the property, they basically are sublease. So I have people that do that
I heard
too.
about that.
And then I want to tell people too. Yeah, and I want to tell people too. Do not lie. Like, be upfront with whoever if you're trying to rent it, be upfront with the landlord, and then have a smart realtor that knows, because in our contracts, you put on there, what objections you have based on the use of the property. So if you put in there, hey, I want to use this for short-term rentals, because a lot of these communities, especially these townhomes and condos, are putting in their restrictions. No more short-term rentals shorter than 3 to 6 months or something like that. Because people were coming in doing weekend parties and all the actual residents was getting pissed off. So they just started to put these things in deed restrictions. So if you don't mention that in the contract and you see that they don't allow it and you don't mention that, you still could be held liable for purchasing that property.
On a sublease, dog, that's a hell of a mention to say. So you're gonna go to the landlord, well, you're gonna go to the realtor to go to the landlord to ask them about the HOA. And then you're gonna get that question like, okay, you're gonna do a short-term rental. Now you're in that balancing act of how can I get this property at a reasonable price on the tenant side? So if we're representing the tenant, I'm trying to get it for 18. You know I'm gonna do an Airbnb and I'm gonna Airbnb it for $3,000. What's not to keep that agent / landlord to keep you from going to, okay, you're gonna pay me $2,500 a month to do it because you're not gonna live here anyway. It's gonna be a short term.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, because if you think about it, if you do rent it, saying that you're going to live there and then turn around and Airbnb, and then either the association finds out you're short-term leasing, you're going to get evicted.
Right.
Right.
Man,
So
And
it's
y'all
like,
don't really evicting people for that nowadays? That's
bro,
horrible.
yes, they're
That
not
is
playing
horrible,
around.
dog.
Like,
In Chicago, they're not playing around. We
yeah,
definitely
it's
find.
real out here.
I would say try to do long-term rentals with nurses. I mean, nursing, transplants, especially during COVID. That was my biggest savior because obviously during COVID, a lot of our bookings went down, right? So what is the biggest thing happening right now? Nurses, medical staff, people are traveling and covering shifts. So I had Furnished Finders is a website that you pay $99 for. I put all my listings on there and they rebooked for 6 months at a time for these nurses that were coming in to help out with the overflow of cases. So I would just say, you know, in any market you're going to go into, because I'm big on being able to go wherever I want, understanding the analytics of need versus supply and demand is going to be your key. That's really what we're talking about.
Right. And to piggyback Natalie's point, that's exactly what I was thinking about in the city of Houston, right? When you gentlemen were talking about location, right? You really have to understand the demographics of where people are moving. The medical center here in Houston, I definitely know it's the biggest in the state, if not one of the top in the country. And there are people flying into Houston every day coming to that medical
Most
center.
definitely.
And those stays aren't short term, right?
Absolutely.
Right, and that's what I was talking about in that same area.
That's rodeo area like you were talking
Right,
about.
yeah, that's the same area with the rodeo as well.
Right.
I mean,
So
you
you
got,
know that's
you
one
got
of those hot
rodeo,
areas.
you got the Texans playing, you got people
Right,
coming
Texas
to that.
playing,
And then this is a huge oil town, so you got the OTC.
and you got the
coming
convention
to you,
center.
where you got people from all over the world. So that location is got all kinds of stuff going on.
Right.
Right. That's a fact.
From a realtor's perspective, I know you were talking about if this is good for the community. I just want to throw 2 cents in there real quick.
Yeah, that's what this for. Go ahead.
We have a lot of elderly who can't keep up with their bills right now that are moving in with their kids, right? So if you know of an elderly person who's running behind on their house bills, or, you know, they might be struggling with their mortgage, I would go and talk to them and say, hey, I'm not going to try and take this home from you. Obviously, we're not trying to sell grandma's home no more. We're trying to keep it in the family name. Let me help you put this into a furnished rental. You move in with your daughter and I'll cut you in on the cash flow so that that still stays in the family. There are strategic ways that we could be keeping the legacy still built into the family while helping stabilize the community during a recession. So I want to know, like, who else is creating creative ways to keep that money in the families that are out there who have spent time to build that generational wealth platform for their families. Have you guys experienced that at all?
In that situation, when Big Mama's sick, right, and you dealing with the kids, they have very little understanding about the creative side, because all they know is if I sell it, I lose it. That's what they think. If I sell it, I'm not going to have it anymore, and whatever little money we get, I'm going to have to split. So that's not it's a great way of doing things. I've been a part of some things like that, and it's solid. It's 100% solid. But I can tell you right now, dealing with Big Mama kids, it's tough to try to get them to understand how creative finance is. It is really tough because they hear the horror stories about, oh, I let this person come in and do this, and they end up taking my house, and I didn't get no money, and it started out right, but then it got bad, and that is just a hell of a sell, to be honest with you, on the creative side with dealing with Big Mama kids. put it.
I think the best way to go about it is obviously to work with someone who's a professional, who's licensed. Because if you're working as a third party, they don't trust you from a can of paint, right? They don't know you. So if you're working with an accountant, if you have a verifiable, bank source that's saying, hey, this is an option before we start the foreclosure process. We have someone who's willing to help you. You can partner with people and say, this is who can verify who I am. I'm not some guy off the street that's coming knocking on your door like, hey, you willing to let this go for $1,000? Like, come on.
That happens here though. You got people who come knock on your
absolutely
doors
does.
and do that. That's still a grind out here.
Right. I think I've heard of that. They call it cash for keys or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
To
so
that
from
extent,
a
to an extent like
family's
that.
perspective, that's the worst thing that I hear from families is that, hey, I love my kids, but I never want to move in with them, right? But to Natalie's point, if there's a creative entrepreneur or at least someone with creative ideas, I think that's something that a lot of families could benefit from if and when they're ever in that situation, right? Thinking about taxes, ownership, right? Property staying in the family. I think that's a win for the current generation and the next. So anything that anyone can do to help keep that asset in the family, I think is definitely a win.
Right.
Oh,
I mean, I love the idea as well. I mean, the only thing is again is mind frame. I hear both sides of that. It is a
How you
hard
like that?
sell.
B? You don't get paid on creative finance.
I mean, I get paid on creative finance. That's, but again, it's more than about in my pockets. It's about
I hear you though.
it's about if I could help somebody keep something in their last name, I'm definitely all in for that because again, it's about spiritual currency. So all of that, don't forget that money is moon energy and all it. I could get it, this is not the place. I get on the podcast, I get a little bit more woo woo, but
By the way, I heard the last one, man. You got a little went off the rails on that one.
yeah, I went, I be freestyling.
I see.
You know what I mean? So, but I mean, this the reality of it. Yeah, anything that could happen, creative wise, where we could keep more profit, because that's what happened in Houston. All of y'all could attest to what happened in Houston. Everybody was in the loop, and when we start moving in, they start moving out to the suburbs. Then we start chasing them. We chase them out to the suburbs. They start moving even further out. So we keep chasing them. We chase them some more out even further to Conroe and all, to Katy and all that. And so they moved back in, and we sold all our properties for dirt cheap inside the loop that's not worth millions of dollars, and they got it for pennies on the dollar because we didn't want them. We went got the job in the suburbs chasing them. You see what happened? So if we could keep those properties, now I think we understand the value. Are we starting to understand? If we keep doing stuff like this, I think we're starting to understand the value of the long-term play. Like you might not enjoy it, but your kids can enjoy those benefits of having that leg up.
Right.
So we got to. I mean, some people we can't help. The YOLO people, and hey, you can't help. But if people, if you have loved ones, you wanna see them with a leg up, we can get through to those people.
Right.
Guns and butter, baby.
Right. Corey, man, you've been quiet, man. What's your philosophy on this before we go to the next?
Look, I'm taking it all in. About a lot of good information being passed along around here.
Right.
But the biggest thing for me is I think you're saying that you don't necessarily have to do these things just for the next generation. I think we ourselves can still benefit from these different investments, right? So you're saying whether it's short term or long term, it doesn't even matter. So for an example, you're saying if you have a brand new baby, a lot of people start talking about, the 403Bs, all these different type of investments, which I'm not saying that, don't invest in those. But what if you took and bought yourself a rental property and then just let the actual tenants pay off that actual rental property? By the time that baby gets up and gets ready to go to college, now you have this large nest egg that you didn't necessarily save yourself. You had tenants contributing and investing into that nest egg. Now you sell this house. Now you have this money that's carved away for this child that's going to college. So I think that was a way to kind of help alleviate some of the pressure that parents start to feel when they have kids growing up. But you have other things that you can actually spend that money on, not just your kids, vacation, whatever the case may be. But I definitely think, you know what I'm saying, long-term or short-term investment, you definitely want to get into this real estate game for sure.
Right. Let me say this, and then we're going to, we down the last few minutes, 10, 20 minutes here. 15, 20 minutes here. I want to definitely get into the second half, but let me say this, that what Barry was talking about earlier, there's risk with everything. So you can't, that's one thing, playing ball. I used to play ball. You can't play scared
Right.
because that's when you get hurt.
Right.
So you go full throttle, and we gotta infuse in our community the mind state of abundance.
Right.
And instead of playing scared, play scared. And I always say, Jaime, you watch my podcast all the time. Worrying is a form of meditation. So if you always think the extreme negative, the extreme negative will happen. But if you think, why not me? Hey, this our birthright is prosperity, but you got to be in the right mind frame. You know what I mean? So I don't look at up and down. If I do the planning correctly, there won't be any down. But you got to put in the work first.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know what I'm saying? So, but you just can't randomly throw darts at stuff. You got to really be strategic. You got to get everything as best as you can get it, and then that mitigates some of that risk. Am I making sense?
Absolutely.
Yep.
It definitely does. When I'm talking to individuals and families about taxes, there's an old quote. I'm not sure who said it, but it goes like this: there's a taxation code for the informed, and then there's a code for the uninformed.
Ooh.
And so that doesn't apply only to taxes. That applies to everything or a lot of things in life. So just like you said, Brandon, right? If you're looking at an opportunity to invest in something, real estate specifically, right? You want to be informed about the opportunity that's there, but then also the risk that's associated with it, and all the activity that needs to be required so that you can be successful and mitigate the downside, right? So the whole thing is preparation, and then from there you just got to go and execute.
Right. I wanted to share a quick story. Everybody know Mattress Mac with my mentor, and when I first started, I had my own philosophies, only my own business for 15 plus years. So I had my own philosophies. And he asked the question, he used to have all these salesmen. When it's slow, he used to have 1 million salesmen up front. So, and he'll ask these questions. What do you think we need to do to boost sales? And I made the comment, because I said something like, man, it's feast or famine on the sales floor. And he said, I disagree with you. It's not feast or famine. If you have a system in place, and you have where you have a level of excellence, you're always going to have, it's going to be ebbs and flows, but you're not going to be famine.
Right.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And I couldn't wrap my head around that, in the early 30s, but I understand what he's saying. Like now there is no feast or famine. I'm set up to where, it's gonna be hard to go broke. I'm gonna have to have a coke habit or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's gonna be, but you got to set up a level of excellence in the system to where it's hard to go to that. But in our community, we still have that survival mentality where we don't set this thing up. We don't see 3-4 plays down the road. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
what was it? Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Yes.
Right.
So-
right. To the point CJ made earlier, he mentioned risk tolerance a lot throughout this evening. And that's a word that we use a lot in finance, right? Everyone's level of risk is going to be different based on their life experiences, how they were raised, how they feel about money, so on and so forth, right? But there are asset classes, right? Real estate is one of those, right? To where you find that opportunity or that investment that fits your risk tolerance, right? And then from there, you go and do all those things that you, Brandon, and you, Natalie, just talked about.
Right. Let's switch gears for a second here. Let's talk about, and it's a good segue. You almost did a perfect segue to what I want to talk about in this last segment.
Sweet.
Let's talk about how does real estate play into wealth management and legacy building with some of the things that we're sleeping on. And don't our podcast, and this is open to everyone, but our audience is geared toward people that look like us. And just to be, it just is what it is. More the people, everybody. I got a wide array of people that walk. Hey man, so a lot of people watch us. They watch us on the replay. They don't watch us live for some reason. We might have a bad time slot or something. So but they do. I get a diaspora. I get a diverse audience say they watch us. So, but it's geared toward people that look like us, brown and black. So and in this particular country, we are leaps behind as far as this home ownership thing.
Years.
And that's why I'm an advocate for it. How does that play a part? And I'm glad I have you. I've been trying to get you on the show for like 3-4 weeks here, Patrick. I want a financial advisor to say this so they don't think we're trying to sell them anything. How does that real estate play a role in wealth management and wealth development and long-term financial freedom?
Wow, that's a big question. I totally agree that we are leaps and bounds, from others in certain areas in regard to accumulation of assets, right? Just because of how this country was built and set up, right? But we can't let us stop from, reaching whatever level it is that we want to reach. So with that said, you make me think about a balance sheet, right? And I think a lot of individuals don't think about what goes into, or they don't really understand, right? On one side, you have assets. On one side, you have liabilities, right? Owning that home free and clear is an asset, right? It has its tax advantages, right? In addition to that, you can borrow based on that asset and find those investments somewhat like we talked about this evening. And so you want to accumulate assets from the individual level, like Mr. Corey said, it could be for today, like what you and Nelly talked about, to keep in the family for years down the road. So most folks pay rent, right? I don't know the stats, but I'm pretty sure you guys do, more renters than homeowners, right? In the environment that we're in, that rental payment is probably the same or maybe a little bit less or maybe a little bit more than it would be for a mortgage payment for a home. And so going back to the balance sheet approach, right? If you're paying that mortgage, it stays on the asset side once you pay it off, right? And so that value is still with you on your balance sheet. So in essence, you're paying yourself if you're buying that real property. If you're paying rent, you're paying someone else's rent off, and that whatever $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 a month that you're paying in rent is paying off somebody else's asset. So I said all of that to say this. If you're buying real property, if you're paying a mortgage, one way to look at it from a balance sheet approach, the income that you're making, you're paying off that asset, and therefore you're paying yourself. I'm going to pause. That was a mouthful.
Right. Let that sink in for a second. You're
Right.
paying yourself. Don't look at it as you're paying the mortgage off. I mean, the mortgage company. You're in turn paying yourself, because don't forget, Natalie said something. I was on her podcast. Is it a podcast or a webinar?
It's a Monday night webinar.
Webinar. So I was on her webinar last night, and you mentioned something. Divine, you said that the inflation.
Who?
So the inflation is a lot of times more than your interest rate, especially now. So it's free money. If there's the way to look at it, especially with the taxes that you're going to save in the depreciation.
So you're talking about the growth rate of the homes? Is that what you're
Right.
talking
So the
about?
growth rate of the homes, the inflation, as opposed to the interest rate that you're paying.
Right.
So if you got it during the pandemic, you're in the 2s and the 3s. Inflation right now is at 7.1.
Crazy.
You get where I'm going with this? Plus, the tax benefits, filing off the actual interest and that you're getting back in taxes and, the depreciation and stuff like that.
Right.
You don't have any of those benefits if you're on the rental side.
Right.
And we don't even talk about, in our community, in my opinion, we don't talk about enough about net worth and what that means.
Right.
Correct.
It's fact.
Right.
Big facts.
So,
That goes to the point of the balance sheet, right? Once asset is on that balance sheet and it's paid off, that's definitely net worth. So yeah, that's exactly what I was saying there, Mr. CJ.
Right. And you, Natalie, you mentioned something else as well on your webinar. I gained a lot
Daddy
from
dropping dimes on her webinar, boy.
Yes, y'all tuned in. Tell them where they could
Hey,
tell them where they could tune into it at. They were dropping some knowledge on there.
Yeah, so if you go to my Instagram bio, there's a link for every 99 Investors Mentor. We drop on knowledge with professionals from all over the U.S. and even in other countries that are talking about, ways of keeping the wealth going in your family, understanding your net worth, and even understanding how the homeownership paradox affects us as the people in the community. Like, what does that really look like? Things in the Fair Housing Act, they just became legal in 1968. That was not that long ago.
yeah.
Like, we are really just coming out of it and starting to wake up as a community, say, okay, how do we really understand this? Because it's been withheld for so long that it's brand new to many of this generation that really are trying to understand it. Like, we can't just do these get quick schemes anymore. We really need to understand the long-term passive,
Right.
delayed gratification of building wealth for our families. It's much deeper than that.
I would say the mind frame, we can't spend it all. Stop trying to spend it all. I got money now I know I'm never gonna touch. I got, what I mean, not bragging or anything. I know I'm not touching this right here.
Right.
I would rather drive my 10-year-old Lexus than,
Facts.
So
Dude.
I mean, but I wanted to say this: what you dropped on there, as well as the implications for the tax. You said as well. Yeah, I just lost it. you made me think of something else. But you talked about actually the tax, and you talked about one other thing. I'll go back. I'll open it up while I think of it. So. Y'all go ahead and chime in on that while I think of what you just said. But you said something that was heavy hitting on there as well.
Well, I'll fill in because the initial question was for me in regard to, from a wealth advisor's perspective,
Right.
where does owning real estate fit, right? So the first point I made was about the balance sheet. And then I'll move into asset classes themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have cash, you have fixed income, you have growth of income investments, growth, aggressive growth, commodities, and also real estate. Right. I read an article recently and it shared with me that real estate since 1990 on average increased 4.5% across the board. I'm not sure if that's right. That's you guys' specialty, but that's what I read. Right. And, to CJ's point about risk tolerance, where can you get a guaranteed 4.5%, right, and tax write-offs at the same time without actually owning a business?
Right.
It's real estate. Right. So, I wouldn't say put all your eggs in that basket. I would never say that, but it definitely does have a place in someone's portfolio inside that mix, based on their risk tolerance and their growth objectives. Right. And those are two really good points on that topic, on that subject.
Yeah, and I think the last time I checked the numbers, it was 52% of the population in Houston rents. So over half.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Also, interesting.
That's crazy.
Statistic is that I think we brought up in a couple of shows ago that in our community we buy our first house in the 40s. So and everybody else is I think everybody else is in the late 20s at least.
Right. I sit down with families and their parents say, hey, I have $170,000 for my son or daughter once they finish college.
Right.
They can buy that home that they want to buy. Right. And as a community, and not just us, right, but the others as well, I think that's really important, and it really sets up the next generation for success. Right. But I'm with Mr. Corey's thought process now, right? We have to take advantage of the opportunities in front of us today so that we can set up ourselves for success. And based on how we feel about it, right, we can either set up the next generation, right, or take care of ourselves. And at least we got to take some to make something.
Right. And that's the thing is getting that communal sense back of instead of the individualism. I think individualism was conditioned in our culture for a reason, to be hyper consumers. So we try to spin it all. So if we could taper some of that back and start investing in things. Think about if you had coming out of college, like Patrick said, extra 170 to start off with, where you could be right now. Look at Trump. Trump took how much of his dad money and never looked back. You know, so I got from my grandfather a bunch of stories.
Right. And that's one thing I think we kind of lost our way, because even back in the 60s, like Martin Luther King, Elijah Muhammad, they all knew the importance of ownership of land.
Right.
But for some point in time, we kind of lost that.
I can tell you how it was lost. I watched many shows, and this topic tends to come up a lot. And I'll be sitting here banging the desk like, man, I should have got on the call. Man, I should have got on the call and tell it what it is, man. I should have got on the call and tell it what it is.
Break it down,
Break
bro.
it down. That's what this
I can
is
tell you
for.
what it is, man. So if you go back from the 60s, and if you want to just fast forward through all those times, throughout our generation, all we have been taught to do is to survive. And we do have a survivor's mentality.
Right.
But that's what we know. And until we switch to learn something else, we're going to fall back on what we know. I am a product. I'm from Fifth Ward. I'm from one of the big, hardest hoods in the city. You know, and so I grew up on Section 8. I grew up on public housing, getting food stamps, all of that stuff. So I know what that life looks like. And at this point, I do own my own home. I do run a business. But it took some time. And in order to make that difference, you have to go back there. And you're not going to talk to Big Mama, and you're not even going to talk to their mamas. You're going to have to get, like, I think CJ started a school or a little mentorship program just to show them that, yes, you can do better than what you see every day.
Right.
Because in the hood, the biggest goal, what parents want is, I don't want my child dead or in jail, period.
Yeah.
And if a parent does that, they did a good job. And nobody's going to deny that. Because there's too many of us are dead or in jail. And if you make it past that point, you did a great job. And then it went from dead or in jail, you graduate from high school. Now is you graduate from high school and not have any children. You know what I mean? So you have parents out there trying to do that in those areas. So we're talking about wealth management. We're talking about asset building and balance sheet. Great stuff. But we're all over their heads when they just trying to make sure they got the light bill paid next month. Or they make sure they got something to eat. You know what I mean? Yes, we are an ultimate survivor. 100%. 100%. And my generation, so yes, I'm from the hood, but my children has never seen the hood. No.
Right.
I got family that live there. We go visit, and it's like a different world to them. I'm like, yeah, we ate noodles. We had noodles with barbecue sauce and cheese on top, and thought that was the best thing that ever happened. You know what I mean? And that's what it's about.
So-called
and
cheese.
people are still doing it. You know what I mean? And we can come on and try to understand that, but if we don't go there and get those kids, like CJ said, with a little mentor program to help them understand that there is something better. Also, we can't make owning a home. How do we make owning a home just as fly as the cat on Instagram with the money sitting on their shoulder like this? How do we make that look? How do we make that look better? I can't say well.
That's
Man,
what they got Brandon B. Dixon
I
for.
pull up in my driveway, my 300,000 sitting on the slab. I can't show that to you on Instagram. I mean, that's what it is.
Right.
Right. Well,
I have
let me say this to piggyback your point. I think what happens is this is the problem. I think we associate blackness with poverty.
Right.
And we got to switch that mentality. You know, so there's this code that we need to break. In order to be black, you got to struggle.
You gotta struggle.
You know, and we got to break that you know, and abundance is our birthright. We got to get back to that mind frame. And we could master, we always come back from behind. So even though we're new at it, we always dominate whatever we're in. We didn't invent basketball, but Corey, I can tell you, you know what I'm saying, he's a professional basketball player. We dominate, even though we didn't invent. You know, so we didn't invent the system, but let us get the knowledge out there. That what's our job is what I'm taking on my shoulders, and I think we could dominate.
And that's another reason why we went with the name the Mansa Academy, because Mansa is just another word for king ruler.
Right.
And this is going back to Mansa Musa, the wealthiest person in world history that's never talked about. An African black man that has so much wealth they can't even put a number on it. But we wanted to use that and to use that name Mensa for our young men to change their mindset, because we have to come with a different approach, a different thought process on how to close this wealth gap and do better with our community.
Right. And again, I'm passionate about home ownership. You know, I think it's one of the easiest ways, and just to piggyback what Hyman was talking about, you don't have to be, you know, and I want to make this very clear to people that's watching us on the replay. You know, you don't have to be filthy rich. You know, you're living. We got to switch the mind frame of this is a place to live. This is an asset that, like Patrick said, you can, you know, pass down. Once it's free and clear, you're paying yourself. It becomes an asset that's in your life. Nobody's gonna pick up a house and steal it. So you don't have to be filthy rich. Think about how all of the, you know, I go in these, you know, we do the house tours Lux. How do these people afford these $2 million houses, $100 million and a half houses? They don't pay that out of their payroll.
Right.
It's their assets. It's other houses that the tenants that pay for their house, that pay for their living, they pay for their standard of living. And just like I said earlier, it's that system that they got that keeps it from the famine phase. You know, so that way it's feast. I don't feast as much, but I'm gonna feast.
Yeah.
So it's the system that you got to put in place for your life.
Right.
The way you don't take that roller coaster ride, and you don't have to get into survival mode, the reptilian brain where it's fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you gotta sacrifice, and you gotta put that system in place. And we're here to help you. We form these panels. We have all of the knowledge right here. You got lenders, you got realtors in multiple states, you got financial advisors. You just have to take the initiative and give us a call and let us help you and be willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
And the piggyback off of what you all are saying is, you know, especially as a woman in this industry and seeing the struggle of the community, I will say this. We all know that Frederick Douglass was right when he says easier to build strong children than to repair broken men, right? So we have to, by our responsibility, pass the knowledge down to the next generation that's younger than us and try to have them pass the torch. That's all that we're trying to do, because we know we're not going to fix all this injustice in one call. We know that this is not going to be the solving problem of this generation, but we know that this is one step in the right direction, and we have to say, okay, we're committing to that. So I commend all of you that got on this call. You know, I see you, I hear your messages, and I commend you for pushing through all the adversity, you know, and I know it's Martin Luther King yesterday, but I'm still living it today. So I appreciate y'all. And I love you all, and I appreciate you all for being on this and continuing to set that high standard. You know, as a woman with a Black son, I know it's my responsibility to set my son up for success, and there's no excuse, right? Women have to also step up and say, okay, how can we build together? How can we collaborate? How can we repair the family home that's been broken for a long time? So knowing that it's a collaboration, to hear that you all are speaking, if anyone is on this call under the sound of my voice, as a woman, you know, please support your man. If he's saying he wants to build wealth with you and he wants to learn, support him in it, because it truly is a joint effort and it takes work.
Right.
It takes a lot of work.
Right. And we can't have it, you know, we can't have it all in one sitting, man. You gotta ration it out. You know, this is what it is, and I that's a perfect way to wrap it up. I know a lot of people we 10 minutes over, you know, so that's a perfect way to wrap it up. Let's do the outros and, you know, wrap it up from there. Who wants to start? You know, I know CJ, I know you got to roll. You got the newborn, so you want to start with your outro?
All right. Cool. Now, anybody who's watching this now or they're watching it later, man, share this with somebody that you think needs to hear this information, because it was some knowledge passed on today. But check me out on social media, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, CJ Sales Texas, CJSELLSTX. Check out the YouTube channel, CJ the Realtor. We're showcasing our home tours Lux edition and showing you some of the luxury homes that Houston has to offer, and Houston and surrounding areas. So we're not just focusing in Houston, we're going out in the suburbs too. Check out the website, greenwoodrealtytx.com. If you're interested in getting a customized list of available properties in Houston, check that out, sign up, we'll get you set up pretty easy.
You want to tell them what the inspiration of the Greenwood was, again, don't forget, unsold is untold. Untold is
Yeah,
unsold.
yeah. And I mean, like, I'm intentional with everything, right? So, Black Wall Street, Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1920s, thriving Black community, successful. And the main thoroughfare, the main street going through their business district was Greenwood Avenue.
Right.
So that's where, Greenwood comes in to give reverence to them. Hey, if you got any questions, you want to talk some real estate, hit me up, 832-338-3182. Call or text me. Hey, I'm a full-time broker here, so, this is what I do. And then also, we're giving back to our young men, the Mansa Academy, our nonprofit, the mansaacademy.org. We're teaching our young men knowledge of self-improvement, and entrepreneurship. So, we got to break down those barriers and rebuild our young men up, so they could be pillars in the community.
Gotcha.
So check that out if you want to donate, time, money, whatever. We're accepting it all. So just sign up on the website. Appreciate you.
Barry, since I got you queued up.
Okay. All right. This is Barry Bolston, Keller Williams Professionals here in Houston. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate here, give me a call, 832-786-1270. Or you can go to my website, homesbybarryb.com, or you can Google me, Homes by Barry B. You'll find me.
Gotcha. Patrick, you want to go ahead and take him out?
Sure thing. I want to thank you guys, the panel this evening. Thank you, B, for having me. I really don't have any plugs. I do what I do to help people, and if I
Where
help,
can they find you? Like, because
hey,
people might need.
just Google me, Patrick Chevalier III. You'll definitely locate my LinkedIn on there, and so you'll be able to see. You may even see my personal Facebook. But yeah, reach out, connect. If you guys have any thoughts, feelings, questions, or concerns. The point that I was going to make earlier is, hey, I do what I do to help people. So if I help enough families, I make all the money I need, and I'm in a really good place.
And Patrick's busy, y'all. So somebody hit him in the DM so he could go take his Christmas tree down.
Right.
I tried the first 2 weeks, right, and I've been back the last few days, but it was really nice. I have 2 daughters, and so they ordered some stuff off Amazon, and so when I got back, they were gifts from Amazon, so I threw them under the tree. So they really enjoyed that this past week. But yeah, you take
I had to
that.
get you, dog.
Hyman, you want to tell them where they can find you, so on and so forth?
It's Hyman with H&L Premier Realty. I'm not a big social media guy. Not a big social media guy, but that's a whole nother argument in itself, Barry B and CJ.
Well, hey,
Whole nother argument. We can argue
put the
for
number out
like
there.
2 hours. But if you want to reach out to me, reach me at hymanlemons@gmail.com. You can contact me at 832-235-098. Don't worry about it. We'll fix it later. I'm tired, man. I've been doing it for a long time. Been at it for a long time, man.
Right. All right, Natalie, you want to tell them where they can find you? And
Absolutely. So y'all can check out my page. I do youth mentorship, so I will definitely be connecting with the Mansa Academy group. I think what you guys are doing is awesome. You can reach me at 312-487-1558. And you can find my website at natalieisrealestate.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm in these social media streets trying to educate, because that's where everybody getting it on.
Right.
So I'm trying to get everybody in tune with what's really going on, to build that generational wealth in a fun way to try and get people hooked in. You can always find me on a Zoom call Monday night. I'm giving free gems all the time, talking about everything that we have missed out on. My corporate background has really pushed me into the spotlight to help people and guide them to get their families into generational wealth settings. So I look forward to serving you in the future. And I appreciate Brandon for hosting this call with these brilliant minds on here.
Right, Corey, and that's what we're all about. Your vibe, your tribe. You put the vibe out there, your tribe will eventually find
Absolutely.
you. Corey.
Corey Smith, mortgage broker. If you need to reach me, number is 832-297-7659. Email, feel free to email me, smithmortgageteam@gmail.com. My social media, they rag on me about, is is and still is in development. So I don't have that.
You just put it like this.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
don't
actually
have- I don't
believe
have
in it
that
like
pull.
that? You got what? I think what B, CJ, and the young lady out of Chicago, the main ones that's on social media.
Right.
Are you on social media, Barry?
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn hard.
LinkedIn does
I'm
not
on
count.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn does
It
not
don't
count.
count.
Right.
Since when does LinkedIn count?
Hey, I got over 1,500 followers on LinkedIn, so I'm
Right.
doing
See, that's good.
And doing numbers.
right.
Well, again, everybody hadn't adapted. I was one of the first to, embrace the social media age. But however, everybody's still not. There's still business. And that's part of the platform to bring people in. That's maybe not. That's not on social media that could help you. Everybody. I might not be everybody's cup of tea. So but as long as you get help. But I just want to show you the network. It's just not me. It's a lot of people working behind the scenes that could, help you. So, it just is
I
what it
just
is.
struggle with because I'm so niche in what I do.
Right.
My people who I'm looking for, they on social media. They're tagging their family and talking about the Astros, talking about football. They're not really looking for their next agent to do a deal with. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, we're gonna have that's a good. We're gonna have to have a social media show, like
I can
just talking
I
about
can
social
argue
media.
with the best of them, Doc.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Best of
my outro is kind of long. I'm gonna keep it quick here. I got to do it, man. It's again Brandon B Dixon, NWLS 1541210 at BNL on us on all social media. My website www.applywithb if you're ready to go ahead and get a mortgage, or if you want to book me for a Zoom call, go ahead hit that website up. There's plenty of tools on there. There's some ebooks and there's free ebooks and mortgage calculators and all that stuff, all the stuff that you need. Also, go to our website, HoustonCondoSales.com. And CJ, the realtor, and I, we got all the latest condos and townhouses and high rises. So it's curated. So for Houstonians, by Houstonians, go to HoustonCondoSales.com. Also, challenge me, man. What's today's rates? That's my website. You want to see what's today's rates, and you got a pre-qual from Chase. I guarantee I could beat the rate. Go to my website, www.whatstoday'srates.com. Also, YouTube at BNL Lono. So we got 3 shows. CJ the Realtor and I got House Tours Lux, where we go into some of the premier properties in this area and touring them. We got Behind the Sauce, where I'm showing you the lifestyle, and that's what people want to see by popular demand. And then I got, the 7 years running Power of Ownership podcast that we've been doing for 7 years. So check that out. Also, last thing I got to plug. If you're a bulldog, Frenchie lover, don't forget I have the bullypalace.com as well. So, you got all your accessories, all your pet accessory needs, so we got the shampoo going, so we got an event coming soon that we're going to combine a couple of different things as well. So the Frenchie lovers, I'm definitely a dog advocate, and a pet lover, dog dad. So go to my website, www.bullypalace.com. And with that, we're not going to keep y'all too much longer. It was a great show. I appreciate everybody for coming out. And again, don't be a stranger. Anytime you want to come on, you got a new product to push or event, come on up. We're open book, so no comments or anything, no questions. So we're going to
Start that rental spoon restaurant next.
Huh? Say it again? What'd you say?
When you gonna put something together about life insurance as a part of the wealth? That's another
that-
simple way to
I
get
got
into
some.
business.
Right. We definitely need to mess with
And
that
life
as well.
insurance policy solid.
Right.
Yep.
We gotta. I'm gonna invite Natalie out as well. We're trying to ink down March the 4th for this event. So, it got to be high touch and high tech. So we got the high tech master. We got to be. I want to touch some of the people so they can smell my cologne and all that. So come on to this event.
I was just down there for the CEDIA event this year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at smart homes because we doing new construction, so I want to create smart homes, and
Okay.
we brought some kids from the community of Inglewood into some of the smart homes that we did in new construction, a couple blocks over, and I was like, yeah, this is happening in your hood. You need to get involved right now.
Right.
So they were like, well, what kind of jobs? I was like, you do engineering, you could do project management. They in it to win it. So yeah, Houston is coming.
Right. We need
Houston
to.
is coming.
We need to get on that. What does for our audience? Well, again, I don't want to keep them, so we might have to have another show about that particular topic. There's so much to talk about, in this particular game. So with that, we're gonna say peace. We're not gonna keep y'all too much longer, man. Tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yes, indeed. Peace.